Good morning, this is Steve Stierwalt. I have an important update on the funding situation for the state association and districts. As you may recall, the last time the state association board met, we basically came away with a two-part plan. The first priority was to try to get funding, the $5 million distributed evenly amongst 97 districts for operations. There was a meeting, and then our second priority was basically a fallback position, what we've called Idea 3. So on September 13th, there was a meeting with some of our best supporters in the legislature, and as I reported on our last podcast, we met for an hour trying to get an agreement to move forward on our first priority, which was dividing the $5 million by 97 districts. We were not successful with that, so we moved on to priority 2, which was Idea 3, and had a direction then to move forward. At the meeting with the legislators, when we came up with a direction, shall we say, to move forward with funding, it was the governor's office informed us that it would be the Department of Ag who would be their liaison or be the point person, would decide on what the final funding proposal would be. And so on Monday, September 19th, Kelly and I met with the Department of Ag and received their thoughts on how they were thinking it would be good for funding to move forward. We had some concerns on their initial proposal, and they were willing to look at their initial proposal. And what we asked at that time was that I felt that our board had given me, or whoever you want to say, Idea 3 was passed unanimously as a way forward, failing our first priority, which I don't think is in play anymore. So we had Idea 3 was passed by our board, and so what I ask the Department of Ag is if they could try to fit their priorities, the things that they want to accomplish with this funding proposal, in a basic outline of what Idea 3 was trying to do. And they were agreeable to look at that. We met again on September 23rd and discussed some of their proposed changes to the initial outline for the funding proposal. And although we never get everything that we want, I think it's something that I want to bring now to the board and to the employees, and as a way forward. This slide shows the basic outline of what IDOA would like to move forward with, and again, I think it's something hopefully that we can work with. The first part of it is that $2.2 million be split between 97 districts, which is something that has been in the proposals from the very beginning. The second part is $1 million of the cost share money would be split between 60 districts that are in priority watersheds. This is a change from what we were proposing in what we were calling Idea 3. In our Idea 3, we were proposing $800,000 that would be in cost share, and that would be divided up by RFP. IDOA was fairly insistent that they would like to see this cost share money go towards the priority watersheds, and so that is what was included in this proposal. The next part of it is the $1.67 million that will go to operations, split between 16 land use councils. This is this again fits within the basic outline that we had tried to do with what we were calling Idea 3. At that time, we were promoting in Idea 3 that there would be $2 million that would be split between land use councils for operations. As the priorities they have slipped a little bit as far as the dollars goes, but the basic outline is there, that the $1.67 million will go to land use councils, and that's a little over $100,000 per land use council. The significant part of this is in what IDOA was willing, what they were willing to do, shall we say, is yes, they're willing to do this, but it cannot be just split evenly amongst the members of the land use council. There has to be a logical prioritization done as far as this operation monies. I know this brings up a lot of questions that I don't necessarily have answers for right now, but the key point of it is that there will be additional operations money available, and each land use council will be, to a certain extent, in charge of their destiny as far as how they would suggest these operations monies be divided. The Department of Ag will need to approve each land use council's proposed division of these operations monies. So as we move forward after harvest, there'll be opportunities for discussion on if land use councils want suggestions from the department or from the state association on possible ways to look at prioritizing this money, that service will be available. But for right now, the important thing is that that money will be going out to the 16 districts, or land use councils. I'm sorry, the 16 land use councils, and we're going to talk. And we have to identify one district that will receive those monies, and so I'll talk about that a little more later. The next part of it is $100,000 for stream bank stabilization. That'll be available to all the districts, and there's $30,000 for staff training and support. This is something that we're hoping to call that I like to refer to as capacity building. That as we move forward in what I think is kind of a new world, we need to give all of our districts the ability to be able to write grants, to know where to go with 319, and we need to build the capacities for districts to compete in what looks like to me what the new world of funding is going to look like. This slide shows IDOA's form for the information we just discussed. This has a little bit more detailed information. Still not really detailed, but it's basically the same things we just discussed on the last slide. This slide has a little more detail to the grant agreement. Each district will have a separate grant agreement. These grant agreements are going to look a lot different. I saw one at one of the meetings, and it's like 35 pages long. I can't remember the term, but there's a new procedure that anybody that is doing granting with the state of Illinois has to go through, and so there's a lot more legalese that will be showing up in this grant agreement. And as we've talked, each district will receive base funding, and then the additional operations fund will come from the land use from money going to the land use committees, land use councils. An important point here is before the IDOA can get these vouchers out, we must identify one district in each land use council that will actually receive this money. We don't want to make this too complicated, because what it amounts to is one district, the money is going to come out and it's going to get parked in their district. But IDOA will actually be have the ability, or will be the one who then redistributes the funds once an agreement is sent to them from the land use council. So what we need is one district in each land use council to either volunteer or be designated as a place to park these funds for their land use council. They can't spend it. I mean, that money has to be divided by IDOA at some point. They have to approve how that is distributed eventually to each of the districts. So I'm asking, or I guess maybe I could say I'm appointing the land use council representative from each of the state association board. So each land use council representative to the state association board, I would like you people to be responsible to come up with which county is going to receive these funds. And the sooner we get this done, the better. The grant agreement is they're working on it right now, but they can't finalize it until we tell them which districts are going to receive these additional funds. So IDOA has asked us to have that information to them by next Wednesday. So we need to have that done. If we don't have, if we haven't heard from your land use council, I'm suggesting that we will that I will designate a county to receive those funds. We'll call the county, make sure they're willing to do it. But if you have a county in your land use council that's willing to volunteer, please talk to your other council members and decide on that. We don't need a meeting to do this. This isn't a big deal. It shouldn't be, in my opinion. We just need a place that they can. We need to get the money out of the governor's office as soon as possible, so that it doesn't go somewhere else, for one thing. So we don't want to mess around with this, and so we can get. It looks to me like we have the opportunity to get basically all this $5 million out of the governor's office before the end of the year, certainly, and hopefully a lot sooner than that. So we want to keep moving on this. So please, by next Wednesday, designate who you want to receive, who is willing to receive those funds. And so, and as I pointed out before, when we move on from that after harvest and start talking about how these monies that come out, these operations money that come out to land use councils, I want to reiterate that they can't just be split evenly among districts. There has to be some prioritization. And so then there's there's an opportunity, I guess, there to really target what concerns are going on in your land use council. I don't want to pretend that this funding solution is perfect by any means. This is, the way I look at it, a temporary solution to how to get us by until we get a chance to do our strategic plan, and that we will be initiating in January. So we don't. We just, if districts are willing to work within this in the short run, I'd appreciate it, and get us by until we get to our strategic plan. As I pointed out earlier, I don't pretend that this is a perfect solution as far as moving forward, but there are some things that I think that we can look to this to help us as we move to the future. This funding at least gets us some funding, which has been, 17 months already since funding has come out from the state of Illinois. So we need to get some kind of funding to get us to our strategic plan. This plan does not predispose what districts, how they should prioritize in their local area. This allows, especially in the priority watersheds where there's cost share money. This allows those districts to possibly work together to maybe write RCPPs that could allow this cost share money to go a lot farther. So there's a lot of ideas that we can work with within this structure. So we need to look at this proposed plan, in my opinion, and find the opportunities in it. Show that we can be creative with the funds that are available to us, and as we've done in the past, continue to show how we can take the funds that come from the state and multiply those funds to get even more work done. In my opinion, the state association here is to support the districts. So be thinking about ways that we can do that better. As we move past this funding situation, which has taken so much of our time, hopefully we can start thinking now about conservation and how to move forward. So be thinking of ways that the state association can support your districts to where we can do things even better in the future. Encourage partnerships. As I say, as we move past this is now is a time we can start thinking about our overall plan and strategic plan, and really thinking about how we can do an even better job with conservation. So any ideas, please get them to me or Kelly. As I said in the beginning, in my opinion, this fits into a pretty broad outline, shall we say, of what we called Idea 3 that the board passed. But it is not specifically Idea 3 that the board passed. So please, if any board members or directors have concerns about this, I need to know right away. This is something that the department is moving forward with. It would be very difficult to change it at this point, but if there's significant opposition, I need to know about it as soon as possible. But in my opinion, as I said before, this fits into the broad outline of Idea 3 and is something that I feel good about from things we've already talked about. It keeps local control in the decision making on how the cost share money is spent, and it gives local people an opportunity to help determine how to prioritize money. So it puts more onus on us in the districts. It's more things that but in my opinion, that's a positive thing. We need to be thinking in those kind of terms for us to do things better in the future. We need to have those discussions. How do we prioritize? How can we work together to share resources? And it gives us something to maybe work towards as we think about the strategic planning that we're headed for in January. So it's been a long, difficult struggle, and by no means does this funding proposal make us whole. I understand that, and I am very concerned about the lack of funding. But this is at least something at this point. And as those of you who I've had a chance to talk to, in my opinion, the way forward is to be part of a even bigger plan for agriculture on how to get not only nutrient loss done, but conservation in general. And now that we're getting this funding thing out of the way, it's given me frees up more of my time to actually work on what I think we need to be working on, a plan for agriculture, how we're going to get this done, and how soil and water fits into that plan. And as we go into our strategic planning process, we can then help us see what we need to look like as we move forward to the future. So please, if you have concerns, contact me. But thank you for your patience, and if I don't find significant opposition to this, this plan is going to be implemented unless there's significant opposition, and even then it's going to be very hard to change. So in my opinion, this is the best that we can do at this time. So Thank you very much for everyone's support and working towards this, and happy harvesting.